Hear me yet? All right, everybody. Hello. Hi. Hello. How are you? It's me, one of your favorite virtual people. That used to be easier to say until I became recently aware that there's so many cool VTubers out there. Like so many cool VTubers. Um, I wouldn't even want to just be your favorite virtual person. There's like too many options. Yeah. Oh, Mega Steak Man, thank you for complimenting the helmet. You guys, this is gonna be an interesting one and a different one and a really really freaking cool one. I'm so excited about this. This is gonna be just like, I think, if nothing else, I'm all about what we're about to do tonight, about the conversation we're about to have, about some of the subjects we're going to cover and stuff. This is like, for those of you who are normally a fan of this show, this is not our usual bag. Normally, we are talking about technology and about platforms and how we use them and all that. Today, I'm talking with my guest Horatius, who's a VTuber dwarf, but also works in the psychology field. And we're not gonna just talk about like boundary breaking 3D stuff like we normally do. We're gonna talk about a little bit more of like what's going on behind the scenes with us as people, as the people behind the virtual characters, as artists, as humans. Even if we're not, even if we're dwarves, we're talking about us as beings with feelings and emotions, and what all of this is doing to us, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited to bring on my guest, Horatius. I know you're waiting in the wings. I won't make you wait any longer. You're a fantastic person, and I really like the work you do, and I couldn't be happier to have you. So give me 1 second here, and I'm gonna pull you up. And all right, I'm gonna cut you over. Horatius, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me on, Woody.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It is a privilege to have you here. I'm really excited about all the stuff we're gonna cover. Maybe Am I overhyping? Am I like setting up expectations for failure?
So I could tell after you and I spoke for the first time, like about a week ago now, and it was supposed to be just like I think it was purposed to be like a quick how do you do, and then we ended up spending like 90, 100 minutes just like flapping our lips at each other. So after that conversation, I was like, this is going to be a hoot. So I think that you were appropriately hype. This is going to be a wonderful time.
If nothing else, like I'm excited. Like I'm just that excited to be talking to you. So that's on me, I guess. Yeah, we did talk. Actually, like you don't know this, but like as it ended, like we started talking about stuff I got really excited about, and then I started getting just like, sometimes you start talking about stuff that you're really really into, and then like brain go burr, and
Oh yeah.
then but then like if you're a certain kind of person, maybe if you're prone to anxiety, you just like skip into anxiety, like the train car track, just like sort of like comically, like in an old school cartoon, someone pulls the lever and it just goes down the other track full speed. That started happening to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun talking to that guy. Oh my gosh, why am I so anxious now? It was great. Everything's great, Woody. Everything's cool. Why am I terrified that that didn't go well?
So funny that you say that because excitement and like nervousness and anxiety are all like states of arousal, biologically speaking. So the idea that those get muddled and confused for one another, like practically and just by thought process alone, is super common. So if you were excited about something and then it transformed or melded or became anxiety, like not all anxiety is bad.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. So I guess so for let's let's sort of do some housekeeping up top, because like we're already talking about things that are like important, very deeply important. For one, not a medical stream. We're not giving medical advice tonight in any way, shape, or form. This is all for your entertainment, and if you come away learning stuff from this is great. If you have a problem, you should talk to a qualified professional who will see you on a medical basis and who is licensed to be able to provide that level of care. Horatius and I, while Horatius does have experience in the field of psychology, and I'll let you talk a little bit about that, that's just not the name of the game tonight. We're going to be talking about human stuff. Some stuff I know just from reading, because I love talking about this, but you obviously coming to this with a whole different set of skills and a different set of experiences are going to be more qualified to talk about stuff than I am. But we're gonna throw some knowledge out there here and there, and wanted to make sure that everyone doesn't get it twisted up top. Do you want to elaborate on that at all, or?
Sure, one sec. So let's hammer that down a little bit. Hey, you want me to elaborate on what specifically?
Oh, I just mean I'm just stipulating that, like, it's important when talking about psychological subjects, like, you don't really want to give anybody the wrong impression about what's going on. So if there's yeah.
So the first thing that you learn when you're getting into the field of like mental health is you learn about ethics first and foremost, and it's super important that you go through that before you even learn what you might need to be ethical about. So ethics is huge. Like I do psychology education streams once a month, and I go through like a good 5-10 minute spiel before I go into the information and the data about, like, listen, I'm experienced, I do know what I'm talking about, but the purpose of this is to educate you, and you should take any lesson that you get, take the information you get from there, personalize it, learn the research yourself, and make it work for you. So I want to extend that to today. So whatever you guys may glean from our conjoined ramblings, go, oh, that's a cool concept that Horatius or that Woody brought up. I'm going to look into that more and learn a little bit about myself, and then you can take what you learn and apply it to how it most fits you.
Yeah, and you should do that in a way that does not lead to any wild decision making. As responsible as possible. I don't normally talk about this stuff on stream, so talking to you about it, I'm like, let's cover all the bases. So I think we're good now. Now all formalities aside, what are human beings?
A miserable pile of secrets, I believe.
Is that a quote?
Yeah. It's I think that's one of the things that Dracula says to you in one of the Castlevania games after he throws a glass of wine at you.
Oh, tremendous. That's so there's something so, like, aesthetically pleasing about him just, like, throwing a glass of wine, like, for all of his cosmic power in that series, that he would just, like, open up by, like, here, I'm just gonna chuck some alcohol at you. Like, he's right. Like some, like, old like some like middle-aged tired person who's just like, I've had enough of this, like.
Right. We could sit here and we could throw daggers of words at one another, but I'm just done with you humans. Get out of my face. Is a beauty in that sort of tired simplicity.
Yeah. I love that. Man, that's great. Seriously though, answer the question.
Okay. Sorry. No. I guess so I'm a very philosophical guy when it comes to this sort of thing. So my answer is, a human being or an individual life is, X being years lived. So X memories and experiences, drawn out into X time. Hopefully it was a good run. Like, that's the simplest way I can think of like a single person's existence.
Yeah, I've noticed that you seem as interested, not maybe as interested, but you seem parallel interested both in psychology as well as philosophy. And I kind of like to think about this is funny. This is this is something I would never say on a regular episode, but this is the Horatius episode, so I'm going in. I think of psychology or of philosophy as sort of the underlayer of, like, all other ideas, because, like, it's the ideas about ideas, right, in a way. So, like, what your philosophical worldview is, like, definitely shapes the way that you think about everything else, and absolutely. Like, and in some layers of in like some forms of psychology and some psychological worldviews over the years, thinking about like one's core beliefs is like rather central to the whole equation. You
Yeah,
know, like
I definitely agree.
yeah. So like it's good to think about what you think about. Actually, reading philosophy is miserable. Like I don't recommend that to people. It is like very like head up the butt. In to put it in the most G-rated terms possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's so psychology is the study of behavior, and so philosophy is the study of thinking and like the study of meta thought and all that. So I take a lot of premises from philosophy and I bring them into like how I approach psychology. Um, and there's this term called introspection, and anyone who shares any amount of time with me whatsoever is going to hear me say this repeatedly, and that's introspection is really hard. If it wasn't, everybody would do it. And so, introspection, for those who may not be familiar with the term, is introspection is thinking about, like, looking inside the self and thinking about why you do the things that you do, you do the things that you've done. So, I think I told you this when we spoke before. Like, an example of this is, I love to stop at a corner store on the way home from work. Um, and maybe it's I like to reward myself after a hard day of sweat. Maybe it's because the way I structure my meals over the day, it's because I'm always hungry on the way home, and so that sort of convinces me to stop. That process alone is introspection. It's thinking about why you make the decisions that you make, why you have the behaviors that you have.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then maybe one important point that I don't want to skip before we get too far into it, because like we're starting to get into the juicy stuff, and I'm really happy about it. But yeah, do you want to explain a little bit of your background a little bit more about I've talked to you about this a little bit. Like you have I'm not super qualified to share exactly how you describe your role in the psychological world. Do you want to just give like a two notes on that, 2 cents on that? Cents is the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll extrapolate a little bit. So,
Extract, baby.
will do. So I've been in the field for about 5 years now, and before I had my degree and was doing in the field work, I did some crisis hotline work when I was much younger. It was only for less than a year, so I don't calculate that really into my experience too much, and it was a long time ago. But so I have some dated crisis hotline experience. Since having my degree, I did some crisis hotline work. Those people are saints. If you guys ever see somebody and they're like, "Oh, I work for a crisis hotline," give them a pat on the shoulder or a high five or something, because they're intense people. I've done intensive in-home. I've done behavioral management. Where I'm currently residing, I help children in an educational setting with their behavior. So I believe that the easiest way to say is I do behavior management for children who do not always have autism, but the majority of them are with a diagnosis of autism, and the middle school age range.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So that definitely clears that up a little bit more, because otherwise you're just like this like floating icon of psychology. It's always nice to ground things a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Love that. Okay, so before I diverted to you, we were talking about what human beings are. We're talking about introspection. That's cool. I think the nature of self is something that's always really been fascinating to me, because to me it's the place that you create from. Like, at least for me it is anyways. Like, I've met people who I actually don't think that's the place they create from, but for me it's like who you are and how you make things is like a big part of how you show up and represent yourself in the work that you make, in the YouTube videos you publish, in the streams you do and stuff. Right. So that's huge. So that's like everything's related. Like, I think of life as kind of just being this like spider web of ideas, but that's maybe more general. There's so many ways I could push this conversation. One thing I often start with, and I'll make you be a little bit introspective now, when I'm talking to people on the stream, is like, what is your origin story with creativity? Like, where did you get started there? How did that come to pass? And obviously you have a place in that too. You work in the psychology field, but you're appearing as a VTuber, as a dwarf, as a, someone with a lore and a story. I've heard some of it. I've been on your channel. It's fantastic. You're definitely a creative person. So how does that begin for you?
So I guess there's a couple of routes that I've been creative, and so I could talk about how each of those began. My creative outlook into getting into psychology and mental health work started when I non-metaphorically talked a friend of mine from my youth off of a ledge. They were in a real big crisis. Obviously, I'm not going to give any real important details, but they were in a really, really horrible place, and they were on the precipice, not even figuratively. And by sitting there and talking with them and sort of, working through what they were going through, they're still alive today, are married, have 2 kids. Like, that's beautiful. So that happened when I was just a wee beardling, and I was like, well, I want to do that for the rest of my life. So since then I've pursued, facilitating people's lives in that regard. In terms of like doing streaming content, the creative bite for that happened to me in December of 2020, where like a lot of people, spending a lot of time inside, spending a lot of time with a lot of free time for people who got furloughed because of extenuating world circumstances. And so I was like, I've known about streaming, and I've looked at streaming for a while now as like a really fun thing. And I have a long ago, I tried to make YouTube content, and I was trash at it. So I gave it up and never looked back. But I was like, I could do this streaming thing. It looks pretty fun. But I'm a very private person. Like, I'm very open, but like about very specific things, I'm incredibly guarded. So being able to represent myself this way, instead of with a webcam with my face, I get to represent myself how I wish to be perceived. And we can talk about that a little bit later. But the big thing for me is I don't want anyone to know who I am. Like, that to me is very personal. And so by displaying myself this way, I get to have those boundaries. I feel safe doing it this way. I've met a lot of VTubers, and we have seen each other's faces, and we have shared each other's, personal names. And so like that barrier has been breached, but only by certain people that I've known for quite a while at this point. And then I think the first time I was ever creative in any meaningful way that I can like visualize in my brain is 3rd grade. There was at the school I was at, had a really nice art room, and we were on a unit for like doing pottery. I'm forgetting the C word for that. Do you know what that is?
For pottery?
Yeah,
like clay kiln.
No, it's like the activity itself is called
Casting.
Not important. Anyway, so we did a series of like making pots and like things out of clay, and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm in. Like, I was not a painter. I was not much of a doodler or anything like that. But I was like, making a thing in 3D space with my bare hands. Let's go. So that's how it started.
Yeah. No, I think everybody has that thing at some point where you're like, yeah, give me that thing. Hand me the tools. Like, let's go, baby. So that's cool. And I love that you gave me 2 answers to the question, which is great. Here, give me 1 second. I realized I forgot to turn a light on, and I'm sitting in a very dark room here.
Sure.
It's a cardinal mistake. That's why you just saw my elbow shift like that. Ceramics. Somebody in the chat got it. Razgriz X Reborn. You nailed it there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, just a couple chat shout outs. Lo-Fi Bop, so great to see you. Got some new faces, some old faces. Lo-Fi Bop, huge shout out. Lo-Fi Bop made art of me, which no one has ever done in my whole life, which was quite a thrill. That was a big surprise.
Can I actually pounce on you for that after you're done with chat shoutouts?
Oh, yeah, are you gonna pounce on me? Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna make these chat shoutouts longer now. I'm kidding. Man, yeah, yeah, it's great to see all of you. I recognize some of your names from some of Horatius' streams, and of course we have the indubitable Mega Steak Man in the chat, of course, too. Shout out Hakami, shout out everybody here, man. This one is just the fun. All right, pounce.
So, you said it was like really like almost otherworldly experience for you to get art made of you.
Yeah, it just has never happened before.
I want you to describe what that was like if you haven't talked about it openly before, because that's something that a lot of us, people in the VTuber space experience, and it's like, you can be so deep into life and yet experience this completely unexpected first.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing for me. So I want to hear how that was for you.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story. So my dad and I play VR games together. My dad has my Quest. I have an Index and a Quest, and my dad has is sort of like borrowing my Quest, and we will meet up and play mini golf in VR. It is like as metaverse to me as anything ever needs to get. Like, it's the best. So because my dad lives states and states away from me, so it's super fun. So I'm playing putt with my pops, and then the unfortunate thing about using the VR system I use is that it's all attached to my computer. So I'm realizing that I'm getting Discord notifications. So like an idiot, I look, and another VTuber has alerted to me the fact that Lo-Fi Bop made this really cool animation of me, and all of a sudden, the putt, my mini golf game it was weird. Either I would nail, get a birdie, or I would stroke out. It was kind of insane. You were asking me about the experience of that. I think the way I played mini golf in that moment is somehow important data. I don't know. This is the self-indulgent stream where I'm just telling you how it happened. Yeah, so that it was elating and very strange, because it was something I didn't expect to happen, because I try not to think too hard about the inevitability of gamified social media and stuff is that you end up thinking about the numbers, and I try not to, partially just because it that will change the way that you interact with the content. I posted a video recently that was a lot more clickbaity than normal, and I wanted it to be because I wanted people to find it, because I think we'll talk about that video. We're gonna put a pin in that, or a sword. We're gonna put a sword in that on the wall. There's a reason I'm wearing a helmet right now. I guess I don't normally wear a helmet to these streams, but yeah. So I just for better or worse, it feels like these channels through your subscriber count or follower count or something like that more or less kind of give you a station. I hate that the words just came out of my mouth, because I hate how that sounds, because you're a person, and it's kind of incredibly messed up that these platforms would give you a social high score. But I've seen VTubers who people make art of them somewhat on the regular, and it's really cool. And it's great. It seems like an edifying process for the artist and for the VTuber. I don't know. I might get more of these and find out there's a downside, but I didn't the reason I'm talking about the social of it all and the numbers of it all is I didn't think anyone was paying attention. I just got on Twitter 2 months ago maybe, and I didn't even really know how to use it until I got to talk to Pumpkin Potion, who was on with us 2 weeks ago, and I just didn't think that was gonna happen. So it was sort of an extra big surprise for me, just because I kind of I kind of do my thing, and I like kind of stick to my guns, and it's like I do these streams because I want to like, to have interesting conversations with people, and I make the videos I make because I want to show people how to use Unreal Engine, and then like, I'm sort of doing this third thing now, which is like sharing interactive content that I'm making. I won't beat around the bush too much. At some point, Horatius and I are going to talk about a game that you can play with both of us that I created, which is really quite a fun thing. But yeah, does that answer your question? I went the long way. Took the scenic route on that one.
So that was excellent. I think that's a really cool experience that a lot of people have. Now, I'm not an artist, so and I never was much like a person who had like OCs and stuff like that back in other social spaces online. So having this representation being me, like, that was the first time I had ever had that. So that was really cool.
Yeah, you mean like in like a physically drawn situation? You like it's like, I happen to know for a fact that you play D&D, so it's not the first time you've come up with a character, that's for sure.
Right.
But,
yeah. I guess I mean in the like drawn way. Like I've never had like a DeviantArt where I was like, check out my OC, it's Horatius the Dwarf, and people did fan art of that. Like I've never had anything like that.
yeah, no, it's like a little bit surreal, especially because like it was really really good. It wasn't just fan art, like it was like animation of me sitting at this computer, like
So cool.
and animating stuff, which
That's
was wild, like super super wild. So I loved it, and it was fantastic. And then it was like, I can bring this back to psychology. Like it is interesting because like last week, 2 weeks ago, we talked to Pumpkin Potion, who's really great at the numbers. Like we talked about statistics, we talked about analytics, we talked about all that. She understands it all. But there's like a psychological component that we didn't talk about on that stream, which is like the ego and the numbers and the like. Are you familiar with the term like the hedonic treadmill?
No, but I'm sure I'm familiar with the concept. I just don't know the
Yeah, it was just the mostly the idea that you start playing specific games in life, and like you just want more and more as time goes on.
Yeah.
So like that whole thing obviously is an issue that affects people. So like I at the same time, like I was really really excited someone made an art of me because that feels really flattering. I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, watch yourself, because like that's a big ego booster.
Oh yeah.
That like and maybe it's like a little bit weirder too, because like I'm a VTuber as myself. Like I got into this because like the projects I work on are deeply personal to me, and that's where I draw a distinction with you, is like I don't mind people knowing who I am, like but yeah, that was like a just like sort of like checked me. Like I honestly don't know if I did check myself enough after it happened, but like I did think about how like potentially destructive that is. Like not that that's the artist's fault in any way. Like they did a fantastic job, and it was super cool to look at, and it made my night. But at the same time, I was kind of like, is there more of this? And is my response to this now indicative of like a future response?
I mean, it's unabashedly addiction with a different coat of paint.
Right. Well, I mean, like anything is, right? It's like it's all stimulus, like in the way that like, like the computers are an arbitrary arrangement of pixels. Like the way we've programmed them gives meaning to everything. Well, that's one for like after a couple drinks maybe. But yeah, it's like anything that feels good could be addicting, right?
Yeah, that's very real.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like that's something I think about, because like to play some of these games, like the way we've set up the internet is like we want to like share what we know and help people, and I don't think my life would be the same if I was born 2 decades prior and like grew up mostly without the internet, because it's honestly it's like it's crazy to me that we all have access to each other's minds, like that I can just pop on YouTube and watch it's not crazy to me because I'm around it all the time and I like grew up with it, but it's still worth mentioning that it's how crazy it is that I can just watch your streams and like start learning stuff about psychology and just like pop in there and like talk to you. You'll actually have voice chat open on some of your streams, which is just like so man, it's pretty wild.
It's a privilege of the.
I'm getting lost here. Help me out.
Sure. I mean, that like, last point you mentioned about like having the open voice, it is not perfectly open. Like, I have to approve and like want people to come on. But
Oh yeah.
it is a privilege of being a relatively small time streamer. Now, granted, like, it's funny that I say small streamer because I used to call myself a small streamer from time to time recently, and someone in my chat was like, "Hey, you have like over 800 followers, and you're like streaming to like over 10 concurrent. You're not a small streamer anymore." I'm like, "Is that the line? Like, it seems like an arbitrary line, but I guess it's got to be somewhere, right?" So,
Yeah, and there's no official line, of course, other than just like I guess Twitch has their hierarchy of affiliate and partner and all of that stuff.
right.
But yeah. No, and it's like so it's like it's up to you to figure out a lot of that stuff, which brings us back to introspection, which brings us back to being humans, which is like spoiler alert, we're real humans underneath these get-ups. But Horatius doesn't want you to know that.
No,
But I'm
what's wild about that is like other than the hair color, this is very true to how I look in the real world. The ears are a little bit exaggerated naturally, but I'm a stocky dude with a lot of dwarven traits to my personality. Like I've smithed I call him the forge master, my dad. He and I forged, pretty much every single year. Just with some regularity. He taught me a lot of trade skills. So if you think of sort of the tropey things about dwarves and dwarven culture, that's why I gravitate towards being a dwarf so much, is because there's like, that's me, man.
yeah. Oh, that's great. So that yeah. So what do I like going what do we do with those structures? Like what's a set of practices we could adopt to like for me getting my first fanimation and you no longer being a small streamer in some people's eyes, like what is there a belief, is there an action, is there an outlook that like helps kind of temper the madness of that? Because there's a lot of people playing this game right now on the internet of like who is gonna like listen to me as I use my bullhorn, like, and like obviously for some people it works out better than others, and it's it's anxiety inducing, but also when it works out it's like it's ego gratifying. Like what do you do with that? How do you think about that?
So I've been streaming since December 2020. So about last year's October, I realized that I was in it for the wrong reasons. That I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it, and it was burning me out between my real job, or my more traditional job, and then the streaming content. So I made a shift. I made a big shift in terms of like philosophy on streaming and why I was doing it. I made it, instead of it trying to be a primary income or a secondary income, I decided I'm going to make this a creative outlet. So do I look at the numbers? Do I look at the metrics? Do I look and see what things, do well, do better? Like, yeah, for sure. Like, because I do want this to be successful. But for me, when I go at the end of the stream, I always like sign off by yelling like, "It's time to get out of my mind." Like that's like a little sign off phrase, super fun. When that happens and the camera goes off, I go, okay, like we had awesome conversations. I definitely know that one person, like this username, had a particularly impactful experience. Like that's a W. Like that win. Like that's what I'm in it for. I'm in it to make really cool, genuinely fulfilling experiences for people, because I've put a cage on myself as a content creator. And I try not to sound sanctimonious when I say it, but it's going to come off that way, and I'm just sort of comfortable with that at this point. I put a lot of inhibitors on how I produce content. I don't like to chase trends. I don't like to do what's most popular. I mean, I'm a dwarf. Like, if you look at a lot of the biggest names in VTubing, this ain't it, you know? Like, this sort of warm, comforting mentor, dad kind of character is not raking in the thousands of viewers. And I'm okay with that, because to me, this is what's fulfilling to do. So I think what's important is that you find what you want out of the creative outlet that you have, and then you focus your efforts on getting that. If it's success, if it's financial success, if it's number go up, like, cheers, go for it. But you have to answer that question of what's the most important thing to you, and then how do you get it?
Yeah, right. And I think that's like, it's hard to do that while there are other people around you who are maybe not being mature and looking at things with that same lens, you know? Like, we all know that there are plenty of, I was saying earlier, the introspection is great for thinking about how I make my art and bring it to people. But like, we all know people who make stuff out of a sense of like, well, like, algorithmically, like, let's play ball. Like, right. We can I guess talk about Mr. Beast, because he's like sort of a, you know, an icon in terms of like the YouTube algorithm. But like, I've never learned anything about Mr. Beast while watching a Mr. Beast video, other than that the dude is like really good with algorithms and cash. Like, that's all I've really picked up out of there. And like that, like, would anyone want to do the kind of numbers he's doing? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, like, I would never want to make the kind of stuff he makes, because I'm me. So it's just sort of it feels like sort of a weird trap. So like, I want to talk about To Do Dungeon a little bit, and the video I just posted, because it correlates. So like, I just posted this video about this RPG that I built that lets people turn their to-do lists into a game, that like lets you directly like gamify productivity in your life. And to me, it's not like a new idea, like it's been done before, but like, to me, it maybe has not been done this beautifully, I might say, but to me, it's like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, I've made something that can help people. I want this to do well, and I want people to see this, and I'm gonna make a clickbait type, like more clickbait on this one than I normally do in my videos, because like this, like, I want this one to perform, and I want this to help people. And there was like an element of service to it, and there was also an element of the, like, I spent like almost 4 months making it, so like, and the process was really arduous. But like, that one was been like tough for me recently, because like, I haven't, like, it just didn't do as well as like I thought it would. And I still think it's really cool, and I think you do too, because when I was telling you about it, you were like, oh man, this sounds up my alley. But yeah, but that was, it just like, it checked me, you know. I was like, okay, wait a minute, why am I doing this again? And like, what's the goal here? And to be honest, some of that stuff I'm like reflecting about now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear a lot of people say the phrase, it's playing the game, right? It's you follow the trends, you do the clickbaity thumbnail and the title and the tags, and you know, you learn your platform, you learn the rules, you play by them, and you try and get the clicks. You know, I get it, and I think is a really compelling argument to be made when you have something like To Do Dungeon, which, like, this is your brainchild, like, you're very invested in this being something that positively impacts the lives of other people, and I think that's a really noble and beautiful goal. So do you have to bend the knee on your moral compass to ensure its success? Do you have do you feel like you have to, you know, make the changes that you would never advertise it as if it would boost its visibility?
Yeah, I don't think there's compromise there. It was like, I guess it was more about like ego and disappointment that like it didn't go further than it did.
Hmm.
I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it does. Like if you, yeah, I mean you already said pretty clearly that it was like a clickbaity thumbnail, which is something that you wouldn't normally do. So like were like, okay, I'm gonna go this extra mile, and I'm gonna fingers crossed, but expect that this additional effort is going to yield additional result, and then it didn't meet those expectations. So that's, I think, a unfortunate but very reasonable reaction to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. It's like it just like isn't the point, like the reach isn't the point of why I mostly do things as much as there's the service element to it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't, man. Like I say this genuinely, and like to I'm like reflecting on that now, and at the same time though, I'm still gonna promote the hecking heck out of it because I still want, like, I still do want people to find it and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, am I? Are you comfortable with me announcing that you're going to be joining me in the beta that we'll be doing?
Yeah, go for it.
As much as I just did.
It was a very natural segue. Very natural.
Yeah. I never get tired of that joke where you ask someone something that you're getting permission for after you've immediately done it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess like talking more about To Do Dungeon, it's really exciting. There's a whole video people can watch. Like I'm not gonna like, I'll explain the concept briefly, but I'm not gonna go back into like the whole story of it because there is like a a whole process I went through to make it. But basically, you take your to-do list and you mark down, like, you rate your tasks in terms of difficulty, and then those tasks become attacks you can take as a game character in a game in a video that gets sent to you on Discord, which to me is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
what was crazy about it is that like it ended up really changing my life in terms of how much stuff I got done because it raised the stakes. Tasks you don't get done in the game end up hurting other people, with like gives your enemies opportunities to strike both you and your friends. So it's like you kind of like lose the ability to self-destruct because you like don't want to take it out on other people, which is super fun.
Yeah. It's
Maybe it's fun. Maybe that's not the word.
I mean, if you can make improving your own behavior and your sort of control of your own executive function, and you can make that fun, like that's the dream. That once you make something like that enjoyable to do, that's motive, and people are going to be more willing to do it. And to quote the Vlog Brothers, like, that decreases world suck, and that's a wonderful thing to do. The way I've been describing To Do Dungeon to people that I've been sharing it with is, it's like an executive function training tool to sort of help you understand your limits and how to push them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. As much like, it's funny to hear you say that. Like I agree so much with that description, and I'm also thinking about like how few like how there are still things that I like got out of the game that I like still do badly now. I gotta get like a little bit more positive self-talk in the nog.
Can I hit you with something?
Yeah, please. I would like you to hit me with as many things as you see fit to turn into projectiles.
Perfect. So here's the thing. When we, in the field of mental health, are working with someone in a therapeutic sense, the expectation, the norm for most people, is it takes about 6 or so months of continuous therapeutic assistance for someone to, like, measurably, consistently change their behavior. So if you ran this first course of To Do Dungeon and it only took like a month or two, and you're like, wow, and there's still these parts of my behavior that I'm struggling to make these shifts with, you're only a third through the journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at this as like the first leg of you making a meaningful shift in how you address and you can handle your own growth.
Yeah, No, I mean it was not it was like a it was definitely a gain. Like it was a big gain. Like there was like it was a big gain in general. It like it didn't lead to total mastery of everything in my life, which I would love to be able to advertise.
Sure.
It was a plus. I'm like not gonna overhype the game. It like it did change my life for the better. At the same time, I'm excited to play it for the second time. Like I'm really excited for that round 2 boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Lo-Fi Bop is saying that that's where I wore the helmet, and this is exactly why I wore the helmet. Horatius, I want to take this to another place. I'm really glad you're joining me in this game, and like this sort of touches on something else that I think a lot about, and like I think some of it has to do with my upbringing, which I haven't as yet been super vocal about yet on the channel. But like I think a lot. Well, it's unnecessary to talk about that. I think a lot about upward motion. Like I think I've heard it called the next right thing. I think a lot about like the nature of progress in one's life and like thinking about what you can change in your life and making that next shift, which is I think kind of a big part of psychology. How do you describe the process of improving as a person?
So improving the self, it's a behavior. Like it like all things to some degree or another stems from a desire to do something. So if you have this sort of forward facing, marching forward sort of way of handling your life where you reach a goalpost and you're like, heck yeah, did the thing, awesome, great job, everybody, high fives all around. All right, what's next? Like, if you're one of those types of people who is always looking for the next thing to move on to, that desire, that is the willingness to always like take the next step. Shows that like that get up and go is not an issue for you because it is for a lot of people. I'm sure you've met people like that over the course of your life.
That's really nice, but I feel like I've made it enough about me for now. I just mean like in general, like it can be really hard to like even explain what that process is. I'm realizing like I grew up in a tradition that had specific language for all of that stuff, and I think it's interesting now. It's like a big part of why I do anything or why I think a project is a big reason I want to reduce world suck, to quote the Vlogbrothers, is because I feel like it is possible through making things to encourage people to make small or big changes that improve them.
Okay.
But like that's not even like something that's always even easy to articulate. And I think you, whether you know it or not, are also doing that. So I wanted to open up the channel to talk about it. If you've got any like input about that. It's like, yeah, being good is good. I'm trying to like formulate a specific question, I suppose.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm a little lost. Like, if your question is like, what's the process of like having that mindset?
I suppose I'm curious about what language you use for it and what you think about that, and like how you think that plays into the greater meta of like just life.
Okay.
Philosophize, dang it.
Sure. So I look. I think it's amusing that you look at it as like the net like forward, like it's all forward momentum. I look at it as digging, which is thematically appropriate.
That's amazing.
I always look at it as like the core is the end game, but every time you take a shovel full of earth and you throw it over your shoulder, that's a step. So for me, trying to figure out like how I describe trying to work with somebody, for example, trying to get them to the next thing that they want to improve their outlook or their way they do things. We go, okay, what's the end goal? What's the far away? All right, so we got that thing. Leave it over there. Put it down. Write it on a wall. Stop thinking about it. We're going to go back a step. How do we get to that point? Okay, this is how we get there. Take a step back. How do we get to the thing that gets us to the end? And then we just keep doing that until we break down the tasks small enough to where they're surmountable on a short-term basis. Because for some people, it does work to have like a yearly goal, on like that sort of macro scale. All right, this year I'm going to get the money together to buy a house. Okay, like sure, that works for some, but I think that what works for more people, at least in my experience, is okay. The end goal is I want to have a nuclear family. White picket fence, that whole deal. How do we get there? Okay,
Or just more hamsters.
yeah, yeah. I mean, however small or big the task might be, you can always break it down to its smallest components. Take that handful of task, that handful of difficulty, and accomplish it.
Yeah, so you think about it in terms of breaking things down into achievable sub goals. Is that fair?
Goals, goalposts. I mean, the language is however you want to play it.
You're not moving the goalposts. You're just making more of them and shrinking them.
Yeah, it's like a relay, not a
Or
relay.
a ski slalom.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. A slalom.
It's a word that doesn't get enough love.
Yeah, it's because it sounds weird in English. Like, you very rarely will combine two L's that closely together.
Yeah. So I hope that addresses the question.
Yeah, Mega Stickman, that you got a good chuckle from me. Mega Stickman said that you can't break down hamsters anymore; they're already too small.
Gerbils. You can break hamsters down to gerbils, I think.
Hamsters, I think mice are probably the bottom, right? It's like 2 mice for each gerbil, 2 gerbils for a hamster, 2 hamsters for a guinea pig. It's the English metric system, or the English imperial system.
Yeah, for household rodents.
Yeah, and then 2 guinea pigs is a bushel, and then 2 bushels is a that's the worst joke. Yeah.
It got me.
I'm glad. But that's like, I think it's so cool that you do your streams and that you talk to people and you get like, I've heard you talk about the like how you're unwilling to allow things in your life to not be faced, like hardships or like stuff that you got to deal with. Like, I've heard you talk passionately about how you want to like just clear through the obstacles and like sort of face life even keel, and I really admire that. And I think that you are creating a space where you're encouraging people, whether, like I said, like whether you know it or not, like you're creating that spot where people are able to keep making that next step and think consciously about what they're doing.
Yeah, and when it comes to that sort of thing, like the big thing you have to do, it's how does a quote go? It's like an old adage, like "build it and they will come" type of deal. If you just walk into the middle of a public space and start dancing, you might just look like a fool in the public square. But maybe someone will come by and be like, "Hey, this music's pretty funky," and they'll just start dancing with. And then if you just keep coming out and dancing, they'll be like, "Oh man, that Woody guy, he's back at it again, dancing on the cardboard." Like, you're gonna attract people to just sort of cut loose and join in the fun, because fun is inherently infectious. So similarly, by having this space where people can sort of live more candidly and honest with themselves and then therefore other people, I'm hoping in that that it normalizes that kind of behavior, and that people go, okay, like Horatius' mountain home is a cool place where we can all be incredibly honest with ourselves and with each other, even when we don't agree. Then I'm going to go onto Twitter, and maybe I'm going to do that there. Maybe I'm going to be honest with people in the real world and in the relationships outside of the online space.
Yeah, I feel that's actually something else I wanted to ask you about, that I've been like very, very deeply like wanted to have this conversation, and I think we like sort of figured it out this week that we would like introduce this topic. But like, you're talking about authenticity and like a place where you can be yourself and like really step up in that. You've created an environment for that.
Right.
It's interesting to me that I believe you're right from what I've seen of what you're making. But it's interesting to me that you're doing it as a dwarf and people don't know the real you, and that's like by intention and by design. I've kind of thought for a long time that like through kind of creating these icons of ourselves, whether it's a virtual version of your actual physical self, my mustache is real, or a dwarf because you just like relate so much to it. Like I kind of almost feel like in a way it doesn't like diminish the nature of like the person being there. It like almost like channels something. So like talk to me about being. Did I just answer my own question?
I mean, I think you laid out a great thesis statement.
Yeah, it's a thesis. It's a thesis. Let me try and not be a know-it-all because that's a thing.
Finally. I'm having
How do you think about being authentic without like being Jeremy or whatever your real name is? I don't know it.
if you just said my real name, I would have left the call. But like he found me.
Yeah, that's the risk with that joke, right? Is like especially if you have like a very I need like weirder names. Like if you're like Cornelius or something would have been a good.
So to answer it, go back. I'm gonna go back a step.
Okay.
So a little bit of background about me. So before I got into VTubing, the previous creative outlet that I had that enveloped a lot of my time, some might call it a hobby, others may call it a lifestyle. I used to LARP. And I LARPed in this particular LARPing community for about 16, 17 years. And during that entire time, I was a dwarf there. And this is a fantasy LARP, so dwarves were just, well, they weren't common. There was a very small amount of us.
Depends on the world building.
Absolutely. Which is a shame because the game was based off of Tolkien stuff. But anyway, just dwarves were not terribly popular. I'll never understand why. We're awesome. But so it's very easy for me to be a very genuine version of myself while, being a dwarf because I've been a dwarf for 20 years. So like it's a weird thing where so something that I genuinely struggled with when it came to my sense of self after having LARP for like 10 years at that point. I was talking to who the Willow, who is now my wife, and I was like, babe, like, man, I'm genuinely struggling to like discern when, my LARP character and my, mundane self, like, where's that line? It gets blurry. I don't know where one begins and the other ends sometimes. And like, that was kind of scary in a way. But to bring it back to the question,
I love everywhere you're taking it. That's you're not off the question. I specifically we don't always talk about the notes. I send everybody notes before we do the show. In the notes, I said I am down to meander.
I saw that and I actually wanted to comment on it at some point because I thought it was very fun. But yeah, so like it's one of those things where like, am I Horatius the dwarf when I if I like rip the model off, would you see this? No, like in reality, if we take the facade away, I am a different person. I have my own life, etc., etc. But there's so much overlap that it makes it very easy for me to be authentic. And I think that because there's that very narrow gap, or maybe you could just call it a more art savvy person or acting savvy person might just say that I'm such a character actor because I've been in this role for so long in one way or another that it feels just so very real, because it is for me. Sorry. Oh, but
so you're in an interesting boat because you've kind of like split your personality between the different things. Like there's like Horatius is like lives inside you in a way, which is
right.
I'm not sure that's everybody. Sorry, keep going. You had another thought.
No, but I think that what you just said is a great spice to that idea. Like, because you could look at other content creators, and I won't like go through a bunch of examples, but like I've talked to them privately, and one thing is a through line through all of these people's experiences, and it's like, oh well, Horatius is just me, but 110% of like instead of 100%. It's a very small gap, and for some people, it's even less. Some people, it's like, oh well, like me on camera is 103%. It's just there's so little of a gap there. And then for some people, it's they voice act. They have a whole thing that they stick to, and they have a bunch of like social rules that they keep themselves to, where it's like, oh, well, me on camera is like 150 or 140% like different, or there's a big gap between who they are on camera and off camera.
Yeah. And so I guess it comes back to acting too, like in that sense, whether it's LARPing or whether it's like, really, having a role in a character and all of that stuff. I guess it's there's an element of all of that, but like I'm firm to my thesis though. I feel like and you've already said like through your relationship with your dad and like working the smithy, like just having those contracting skills,
Yeah.
it's like there is a 100% authentic part of you that is coming into play, into being, or manifested. Is that the word? I hate that word because I feel like it's been co-opted by people who are just very, very not mindful. But you're bringing this like experience to a bunch of people, and I think it's really, really cool. Do you want to play a game?
Sure, let's play a game.
All right, we're in danger of overusing the Wheel of Chaotic Prompts, but I saw no other route. Eventually, we're gonna get some more games, but let me pop you over to the small screen down below here. Let me yeah.
Just while you're doing some techie stuff. Hi, everybody in chat. Welcome.
Yeah, what's up, chat? We have some new faces. Hannah popped in while we were talking. Tempesta Husky, what's going on? You were late, but you were just in time for the games. Fofamit's here. Former guest Fofamit. Hello.
Which, like, I hate to be like a total, like, not having my stuff together and like fanning, like being a fan a little bit, but for you to have people like Fofamit and Pumpkin Potion and then to have me on is just like, it makes me genuinely giddy.
Yeah. I sometimes, I actually try not to think about it. Like I think about like, okay, like who's a good person for me to talk to, and like I can't think about the other parts of it. If I think too hard about it, I'll psych myself out or it'll get weird or something like that. Like I'm just trying to like, I have conversations with people and I just usually ask that like whoever I talk to, like who should I talk to next? So like I don't, yeah. I try to avoid the giddy, actually. Like it's just a process of like just meeting cool people who introduce me to cool people.
And that's what it is. Like I have very recently become a friend with Pumpkin, and like she's just such a wonderful person. So the fact that like her and I are like both on this show at some point is just like a fun little through line. That is just so fun.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm going for. Yeah, I guess. I don't know if I've suitably explained this game. I'll preface it again for everybody else who's hanging out. But we're about to play the Wheel of Chaotic Prompts, where the game will ask you exactly what to do with all the words. So I'm gonna open up the curtain here and show you what it's all about. All right, and we have our 3 wheels here. You'll have a prompt, an adjective, and a noun. So populated on these wheels are the input of former guests. So you'll get a couple of different notes here, and you'll also have the opportunity to create a prompt, an adjective, and a noun. And we'll add it to the wheel, to the various wheels here. But there's only one good way to explain this game, and it's to let it just kind of play itself out. So here's hold on, I'm not quite correct in the on my stream deck here. So here's a set of wheels for you, sir, and
Fantastic.
it will tell you immediately what it wants you to do.
Okay.
What's a good name for a flammable peach? All right. So now you got to name that peach.
A flammable peach.
Yeah, it was really funny when Pumpkin was on because I we played with Pumpkin 2 weeks ago, and it like the first question that came up was like a very genuine one, which was really weird because it seemed very philosophical. But like it's supposed to be chaotic. Welcome to the chaos. You must name a flammable peach.
Right. Hmm. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Peaches aren't citrus, no? Sorry, I'm not
Oh,
super.
I'm not. I'm unsure. I'm not an expert on that subject for sure.
Flammable, flammable
Yeah,
peach.
and I'll play with you. I'm not gonna just leave you in the lurch here. So like a flammable peach, like it's not something you would name, right? Like okay, so like the game's freeform. There are no wrong answers. We can extend the concept as far as we want to go. So like a flammable peach could be a peach that was genetically bred to be more flammable. So perhaps for a specific use in fire dancing. So uh I could say like the street term for it could be like a fuego mango.
Oh, I like a poi fruit.
Poi fruit. Okay.
So
Okay.
there's an activity of flame dancing called poi, where you have like long ropes or strings or chains, and at the end you have like a little knob or a very tightly round up like piece of rope or fabric that's like very much slicked with some sort of flammable liquid, and then you ignite them and then you start dancing by like swinging these chains all around your body in different directions, and that is called poi.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Am I thinking of something else? I thought that was like a form of racist Norwegian metal. Um,
Geez, I hope not.
yeah. Never mind. There might be another thing that you should not look up that is related to that. I'm just. I'm. It might be true, but I'm also messing with you. So so a poi fruit. Yeah, that's a good answer. It's not usually like it's gonna get more freeform.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna do something a little bit. Hopefully we'll get something a little bit less narrow than the naming prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, you've got the make up a song prompt. Left us by our the first guest ever to play this game, Sapphire. So you got to make up a song about a largemouth cat lady.
Let's see. Do I need to sing it, or do I just like? Is there a performance expectation? Or
There is no expectations in this game whatsoever, other than that you give the prompt its due.
I feel like first of all, this song is like a funk or a jazz or a blues, where it's like a somber tale or a ballad talking about this like person who lives in the apartment next door, and she's this large mouth cat lady, and she's always meowing at the moon with her cats or something like that. Like it's like a song of someone down and out
Is it
because
like
mouth.
jazzy blues or is it like guitar sad blues?
I'm gonna go with this is like a something that you would perform as a blues musician near the end of the night when everyone's a little twisted and everyone's sort of winding down and people are on the instruments to get a little sloppy.
Okay. Yep.
And you just go with this because the lyrics are really easy to sing and say, and it's real funky.
Um, yeah, no, that's totally valid. I think like it. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't listen to too much blues, so I can't like perform that for you. But I think like I could add content to this song. I think I like it's like more like a character story, like a little bit of like an interest thing, the singers were counting the tale of the largemouth cat lady who used to like live next to him or something like that, and like she shouted something like indubitably iconic, like something that that she's just saying like some like weird tidbit of wisdom. Like she has like 12 cats on the porch with her, and you wouldn't expect her to be such a fount, but she says something that like carries the whole chorus.
I immediately am pulled in the direction of. I hope that can you post links in your streams chat?
I don't know why you couldn't. Go ahead.
Well, because on Twitch, which is where a lot of my experience with like chat and the rules therein are, is there's a lot of auto mods that'll ban the use of links. I posted a link.
Go ahead. You're good. You're good.
I posted a link to a song called "How Blue Can You Get" by BB King, and after the 3 minute long instrumental opener, this song, and BB King is singing like about how sad his romance has gotten with his lady, and he goes into like, I bought you a brand new Ford, but you said I want a Cadillac. Like no matter what he does, it's just never good enough. And I feel like this sort of lamenting how verbose or rowdy or talkative this largemouth cat lady is that same kind of vibe.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What's interesting about this game is that everybody plays it differently. Mm-hmm. So that's fun. I'll take that. Let's give you another one here.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Glad you're enjoying it. Let's see. What do we got here? And we re-roll any ones that come up twice. So, like, we don't need another name. Okay. This is like...
Jeez.
Nope. No songs again. Okay. Here we go. So, you're going to pitch a movie about a red-colored VTuber.
Oh,
I don't... You can reference... Like, you can make up a VTuber. If you know a good red VTuber, like, you can... Basically, I want your movie pitch.
Okay. So, it's about a very flamboyant demon man who is on... he has a one-night stand, and he can't remember who it's with because it was just such a wild night. He wakes up, and it's like almost like The Hangover, where he has like one crumb of information, and then it's just sequence after sequence after sequence of him trying to chase down this one-night stand partner that he had. And then halfway through, like the end of Act 2, going into our 3-act structure, he finds them. And then the last act is a rom-com of them finding out that, like, they're accidentally, on purpose, cosmically, a perfect pair. And they have a wonderful, like, series of life events that, ends the way Up starts.
That's beautiful, but where's the VTuber integration? Did I miss something?
Yeah, the character was a...
Oh, yeah, he's just happens to be a VTuber. It's, like, incidental.
But, like, we're in it the whole time, and maybe we sprinkle in that they met in VR chat. Oh, that's it. Stand is in VR chat.
Yeah, okay, yep. Wait, the one-night stands in VR chat?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's conceptually a little difficult for me. Oh, sorry, New York City. Somebody's always in trouble here. Let's let that. I'm gonna let that. Hopefully that's not y'all probably can hear that. The fire truck. Nothing to be done there. Okay, I'm gonna. That's great. I'm gonna pitch one. A red-colored VTuber. I think the red colored, actually, I'm going to interpret that as making a switch from Twitch to YouTube. So you've got like a VTuber who is like forced to like sort of switch streaming platforms of some kind, perhaps. So like red being the YouTube, and then it sort of highlights the perils of dealing with algorithms. Yikes. Sort of a...
No, I'm going to jump in. I got you.
Oh, yes. Save the day, please.
We start with... No, the movie is called Red Colored VTuber.
Oh.
We go right in for that. And so it opens, and we have a VTuber who is having, like, a modicum of success on Twitch, but they get TOS'd, they get kicked off, so they rebrand onto YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And
then it becomes this, like, social media... amid the VTuber community, like a buzz. They were like, oh well, someone, they were on the Purple website, and because we gotta like change the names for copyright. Like,
yeah, it becomes like Glitch and like PlayTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep like the color coded aspect to it, and then we get a little bit of like, oh, what's the name of that the movie with like the red A as like a mark of shame type of deal?
Oh, you're talking about the Scarlet Letter?
Thank you. Yeah, so we go Scarlet Letter-ish, where they sort of get, all of their old friends on Twitch are like, no, like we want to still support you and raid you, but you're on YouTube and like that's difficult to do. And then we sort of get into like a meta commentary about what platforms you use and how that sort of invites like a tribalism type of deal. Oh, that'd be so good.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty niche movie, but nonetheless a movie. I'm not gonna be negative about it. Sorry, it sounds like I'm being critical.
You're good. You're being very honest.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. How much does it cost to buy a Chad Soccer Mom? Like, do you mind if I re-roll Soccer Mom here? Because like literally, Pumpkin Potion was asked how much to buy a specific kind of Soccer Mom last time we were on, and yeah, let's give. Oh, yikes! That's the wrong wheel. I pressed the wrong button. We can keep Chad and just headcanon it, or we could accept the re-roll. Your choice.
We'll see what we get.
Oh, okay. How much does it cost to buy? You could say Chad Goblin or Rainbow Goblin. Totally up to you.
I'm gonna go with Chad Goblin because I've got like 2 Chad Goblins in mind.
I was gonna say we know some Chad Goblins.
Yeah, so Steez Hornsby is a Chad Goblin.
For sure.
He's pretty cheap because he's dead, but he is a necromancer, so I imagine we could probably pull out the player's handbook for Dungeons and Dragons and see how much it costs to hire the services of a equitable level spellcaster to him, and that would be our gold cost, and we can convert that to USD or whatever. However, I'm going to go with Just a Goblin, who is a Goblin CEO and has very big Chad businessman energy. And the problem is that I can't fathom how much it would cost to buy Justa because he's always running scams. It's a bit on his channel where everything's a scam.
Oh, so maybe less, like maybe for the lore there, like it costs very little, but in another way becomes costly later. Like you pay with the wrong bank information, and then then all that stuff ends up being on the wire transfer, and then they got all your information, and
I imagine he goes the route of he's like, oh no, it's free to buy Just a Goblin, but we do need your credit card information. Don't worry, we won't
for
bill
shipping.
You.
It's just for shipping.
Yeah. And then
oldest trick in the book.
You check your account later, and he's hit you for several $1,000s every day.
Yeah. Okay, that's the problem. Yeah. So there's a lot of inside baseball in that answer. I was recently made aware of like the extended universe of D&D VTubers, which I'm thrilled about as a dungeon master and a big fan of the game. Like, there's so many cool VTubers out there that I've met recently. You being one of them. You obviously having interest in a lot of different places, but man, Steez Hornsby's great. I don't know Justa that well, but I will definitely check them out. Let's find out. No, we just did that. We did that too. It's gonna be a parade.
All right. Yeah, D&D tubers.
Yeah, D&D tubers, Mega Steak Man. That's what I'm doing. We already had flammable, man. I'm just gonna triple click the wheel.
Yeah.
Give me some weird stuff, oh wheel. Oh wheel. Give us your we already had red colored.
What could the answer possibly be that the answer wouldn't be sweat?
Well, there's your answer. What does a giant parade smell like?
Now, do you want to take this in it's a parade of giants, or that it is just a parade that is itself giant?
Your choice. Up to you.
Well, I'm very much team big lady. So let's talk about giants. I think giant parade.
I think I know what that means. I'm still sort of. All right.
So giant parade smells like if I wanted to really go hard to my roots and and go with the anger that dwarves and giants tend to have for one another, then I would say it smells like vengeance. But I'm going to go with opportunity.
It smells like opportunity. All
Hmm.
right. Yeah, and that's the part where the DM shuts up and lets the players play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say that it just kind of smells like giant perfume, but then I'd have to make up the giant perfume. Don't give us another song. Yes. Oops, dang it! I keep clicking the wrong wheels today. I have the wheels hooked up to my Stream Deck pedals. It's
The first time I heard about someone having pedals for their Stream Deck, it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's a recent thing. It's a recent thing. All right. What are the songs in the Chatty Shark playlist?
Uh,
They can be real songs. They can be made up songs. You can do whatever you want with it.
I feel like we have to go with a classic. We go with the Jaws theme.
Nice, of course.
We go with a more modern hit, Baby Shark.
Yep. That sort of lends itself.
Yeah. Smoke on the Water,
Yeah.
just because it has water in the name and I like that song.
I'm gonna go with another kind of pick. I'm gonna say that like Beach Boys, anything Beach Boys could go in here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and also anything. What's his name? Jimmy Buffett.
No, I'm with that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Just that sort of like West Coast beach hang, like that whole vibe. I'm with it.
yeah. I think that's a surety.
If
Let's
you want to go way back, we could grab stuff from what's the Elvis movie? Blue something? Where he
Blues
goes.
Brothers. I haven't
No,
seen that movie.
Elvis Presley movie where he goes to Hawaii and it's called Blue something. I forget the name.
Oh yeah, it's Midnight or Velvet or Jazz or
Yeah,
Moon
something
or something
that
sexy.
forms.
Some Elvis. I'm good with that. Yeah, like the whatever guitar line is like from in SpongeBob where it's like like it's actually probably pedaled steel. You know what I'm talking about.
You said that Blue Hawaii. Thank you, Lo-Fi Pop.
Thank you, Lo-Fi. All right, I'm. This is suitably playlisted, so let's. I'm gonna bring up another prompt. No, no more peaches. The peach was brought to you by our friends at The Good Times Are Killing Me, which is an upcoming comedy show, which is
Nice.
fun. Oh, and this one's brought to us by Pumpkin Potion, the skeleton here. Who'd win in a fight, you or a floppy skeleton? I feel like it's like kind of on the nose to ask, but tell me about the fight, I'd say.
So I see this. I see this actually being more difficult than a non-floppy skeleton. The thing about fighting a regular skeleton is that it's so rigid and somewhat frail. You know, it's not going to bend; it's going to break. So once you sort of establish any wound on it, it's going to be permanent, and then you've got the advantage state. But a floppy skeleton,
Ooh.
that's going to be harder to land an injury that doesn't end the fight. So I would say I I make the initial blunder because I'm expecting to fight a skeleton, so I bring like a blunt, like a morning star or a mace weapon, and a shield.
Yeah, you're trying to shatter that skelly.
Yeah, and then I strike it right across the temple, and instead of watching a bunch of bone shards, scratch the walls nearby, it just like bloops in, and it either like bounces off comedically, or it gets like and it gets like stuck in.
Yeah, it's a Jello Skello.
Yeah, the most terrifying of all the skelos known to man and dwarf alike.
It's like part gelatinous cube, part skeleton.
And now it's got a hand wrapped around my shield, which now my shield's worthless. So I can either make the martial decision to drop it, and now my opponent has a shield, or I hold on to it, and this guy's getting close on me for free. So I would say with the right tools, if I knew I was going to fight a floppy skeleton and I bring maybe some fire or some acid or like a slicing weapon,
Some elemental magic.
yeah, easy peasy, not a problem. But if I'm going and fighting expecting to fight a regular skeleton, I might drop my shield in that moment, and maybe the hand weapon as well, and run for a more tactical advantage.
Okay, I love that answer so much that was perfect. We could go out on that one, or I could give you one more. Your choice. That is exactly the kind of caliber I'd expect from a psychologist dwarf D&D tuber. So,
That's a good one. I mean, let's do it. Let's go for one more.
all right, you ready for the final spin, and then we're gonna cut off this. Man, what a stream! Oh my gosh, I'm already recounting what an amazing stream this is. Like, we're not even done. Oh, gosh, this has been amazing. Let's see. Oh, nope. No fights. No VTubers. Come on, give us new stuff.
Real quick though, me every time.
Yeah, I mean, dwarf don't play. We got a song. We had a song. We just had the skeleton.
I mean, that one's already written. The song about a spooky skeleton. That's
Yeah.
that's a Halloween staple.
Yep. No, we can't keep buying soccer moms. This game is, I swear, there's no algorithm on this. I've programmed this thing just to continue to add random amounts of okay. How much does it cost to buy a spooky coffee mug?
It
Actually-
costs good.
Could I take this one real quick? I've got I think this is in almost certainly a monkey's paw situation where the spooky coffee mug costs very little. You're getting it from some sort of secondhand used store, like an antique store or something like that, and it doesn't seem like it would be remarkably valuable. So you're at first you're like, this is fine, everything's great, we're good to go, and you realize later it actually costs quite a great deal because it's cursed. That's my read on it. So let's say it costs about $2, but then you bring it home, you realize that it has turned your cat into stone, more than you thought. That's my answer.
Can I tell you what the curse on the mug is?
Yeah. Oh yes. Actually, yeah. Please. I'm not super sold on that. Actually, what's the curse?
So you buy the mug and you're about to take it over to buy it at the cash register. And you drop it, and it hits the ground, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna break this mug, and nothing happens. It just hits the ground and bounces a few times, maybe, but no chip, no shatter, nothing. You're like, whoa. And then you take it home, and sort of a couple of times of just happenstance, you drop it. But every time you drop it, instead of it shattering and breaking, something else in your house breaks.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's great. Do you have a different read on the question than I do?
I'm glad that you asked, because I do.
Yeah, give it to me.
That very fun, honest answer, I went with kind of a sassy impulse, where I was like, oh, it costs, a spooky coffee mug costs a old newspaper clipping from Spencer's and a Hot Topics gift card.
Oh man, that's that's our show. That's fantastic. All right, Horatius. Well, I'm gonna bring you back next to me here, and we can sort of round out our business, y'all. If you want to play Tudu Dungeon with us, both me and Horatius will be playing. It's for 3 weeks. I believe in this from my own experience. I think it will drastically change the way you think about working. If you are great at getting work done, it'll help you think about how much work you're getting done. If you don't get enough done, it'll really give you a kick in the pants. It's going to be great. But that's the plug. Let me thank my guest, Horatius. Thank you so much for being here. It was fantastic to have you to talk about all of these things. And it truly, I can tell you work in psychology because you were incredibly easy to talk to. So...
Thank you. It's been a real honor being on the show. I really do. I said this to you privately. I'll say it to you publicly as well. I admire the work that you're doing, because while I think all of us can relate to looking at someone that's doing anything and be like, wow, I could never do that, I look at the things that you do and I'm like, I do not possess the skill or the desire to acquire the skills to do what you do, and it's really very cool stuff. So I'm glad to be a part of that process.
I think I would mess up some people's lives if I do what you do, if I did what you do. And so likewise, thank you for coming on. This has been such a great time. Everybody in chat, it's been great to see you all. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, and we are out.